Welcome back to the Laugh My Age Off podcast. My name is Erica, and I want to welcome you here, especially if this is your first time. And if you're returning, we're welcoming you back because we know there's so many other podcasts out there that you could be listening to. And this one is actually going to change your perspective on how you age. So we are going to just catch up with a few updates. And it's been since maybe late September since I came up with an episode. So I want to apologize for that. Life has been a little crazy. A few updates on my end. We have a new podcast cover. So if you noticed, maybe you couldn't find the original podcast, that you're used to looking for, just know we just updated the cover. And so for those of you who have voted for that cover, I want to thank you. If you're over on Instagram, my Instagram is actually Fit and Pretty Life. And if you ever want to say hello, that is the best way to get in touch with me. And yeah, so today we're going to be talking about, this is about a person who we're going to learn a lot about. This person has recently actually passed away, and she is no longer living, but she lived a full extended life. All right. It's a woman who inspired millions just by showing up with joy. And it's a woman who lived to, can you guess how old she lived? Get ready for this. 106 years on this planet Earth. All right. And she's a woman who reminded the world that aging isn't something to fear. It's something to play with. Her name was Sister Jean Dolores Schmidt. All right. If you've never heard of her, if you live in Illinois, you probably know her, but she made headlines recently on the news of her passing because she was so loved. All right. And she was known as the beloved basketball nun. Yes. From Loyola University of Chicago. And she passed away again, just recently in September. She spent her entire life lifting others up, bringing light to every room she entered, and showing us what it really looks like to age with grace, grit, faith, and a little twinkle in your eye. She was proof that a long life isn't just about genetics, although she did have some good ones. It is really about joy, purpose, and staying connected. So we're going to pack a few lessons of her life and how we can integrate that into our own. So let's get to it.
Embark on a journey to defy time with LMAO, Laughing My Age Off podcast. I'm your host, Erica Kelly, and I started this show because, like you, I'm curious about the secrets to staying youthful as the years go by. Join me as we discover the secrets to slowing down the aging process, exploring expert insights, cutting-edge research, and personal experiences that uncover the art of aging gracefully. It's time to laugh, learn, and embrace a life full of vitality together.
All right. So we're going to first talk about her story, a little bit about her background, if you have no idea who I'm talking about, okay? Other than I just told you in our intro that she was known as the basketball nun. There are 3 lessons that are really tied to her longevity, okay? So first off, she was born in 1919. I mean, think about that for a second, how far back that is. She basically lived through the Great Depression, World War II, the Civil Rights Movement, the internet, and even TikTok. So that is a lot of change for someone to go through, more importantly, to adapt to. Okay. And through it all, she showed up with joy. She became a beloved figure of Loyola University of Chicago, where more than 30 years she served as the chaplain for the men's basketball team. Yes, you heard it right. The men's basketball team. She prayed with them. She encouraged them. She even cheered on the sidelines. And she didn't just watch the game. She actually became a part of it. In 2018, the Loyola Ramblers made it all the way to the Final Four. And Sister Jean, she then turned 98 years old. 98 years old, and you're still cheering on at a basketball game. That is how I want to live my life. And she just completely stole the show. She became a national sensation, not because she tried to, but because her joy was so magnetic. It was her energy. She knew the stats, she knew the plays. She most importantly, she knew how to make people feel seen and supported. And one of the players told the Chicago Tribune, she's like, unlike any other coach, she really knows her stuff. She once told young people, let your dreams become reality. Don't let anybody stop you. And yes, you have to be your authentic self. Even at 105 years old, she was commuting 5 days a week on a shuttle bus to a campus, answering emails, taking selfies, and offering hugs and advice in her office. So she was super active. And we're going to get to one of the lessons here, but it seems like she really had her purpose in life at this point of her life, right? And in 2025, when a summer cold and health issue kept her from campus for the first time in years, she sent a message to students saying, I celebrate with you in spirit. So that was Sister Jean in a nutshell. She always focused on what she could give, never on what she couldn't give. She loved her students. She loved her team. She loved life. And, let's just pause for a second, knowing the entire background of Sister Jean, or a highlight of her life, right? Is that she approached aging the way she did, right? Less of a countdown of how old she was getting. It was more like a championship season. So we're going to talk about lesson number 1. All right. Number 1 is purpose. Purpose keeps you young. Okay. And I 100% believe in this. And she goes on to say, she wrote a book that you should never retire. And I want to expand on that a little bit because I think some of us who are still working full time, the concept of not working sounds great for a little bit. I think most of us can't even imagine retiring, right? If you're still working 40 hours a week and then some. I think most of the time, what I find myself thinking is I just need a break because I, for one, love coaching. That's one of my favorite things to do. It gives me purpose. I feel like I give people I shed the light of what they can possibly do in their lives and things that they think they couldn't do. So when you think of retiring, sometimes I think of it as, time out, Erica. You just need a break. All right. And I heard this once when, you hear about entrepreneurs. I think I heard this on another podcast, but like, if you're going through burnout and you're listening to this, maybe you're tired and you're overworked and you are just ready for a vacation, you could quit for a day. All right. When you think about it that way, allow yourself mentally to quit for the day. And that could really help. That's helped me a lot lately since I heard that. So if I ever feel like I'm doing too much, I tell myself, Erica, go take a nap and you can quit for the day. All right. And the next day, or when you wake up, if you're taking a nap during the day, you will feel so much better because you just allowed yourself that flexibility. Okay. So getting back to Jean. All right. So she retired only once in her life, and that was at 75 years old. And then it just didn't last very long. She realized that there's more work for her to do. And she said she doesn't like to sit around. And I think sitting around can be the death of your life. Honestly, sitting too much, not to mention physically, right? When you start sitting way too much, your posture goes, and then sarcopenia just gets worse, which is, losing muscle year after year. And especially at that age, we need muscle. Okay. So in 1994, she was actually asked to become the chaplain for the Loyola men's basketball team. That role became the most transformational chapter of her life. Can you imagine? At 75, right? She attended games, stayed up late, traveled with the team, and created an atmosphere of encouragement everywhere she went. She believed deeply in purpose. And here's the beautiful thing. Purpose doesn't have an expiration date. You can always shift Let's say you earn a job. If you think about retiring, think about maybe what you could do with your time instead. And science backs this up too. Studies show that people with a strong sense of purpose live longer. They have lower, ready for this? We've said this before, cortisol levels, and recover faster from illness. Purpose is like a secret anti-aging serum, only it doesn't come in a bottle, right? You can't just go to the store and get it. And for Sister Jean, purpose wasn't about work. It was about contribution. And I completely believe in that. Contribution, feeling like you are really changing lives in some shape or form. All right. And she once said she loved being around young people because they kept her alive, healthy, and vibrant. I'm going to pause there for a moment because that's one that we should reflect on. Who are you surrounding your daily lives with, weekends with? Sometimes you have to be around people, just be around people, maybe at work, but there are options there too. You have choices. Do you like the job you're in? Because we spend half our life at work, right? Especially during the week. And if it becomes toxic, that's certainly something to think about. Sure, we all need a paycheck. We all need money. Money makes the world go round. But at some point, you really have to look at your life. You've got one life to live, okay? And who you surround yourself with during the day, after work, on the weekends is super important. And as I've gotten older, I definitely look at the people I surround myself with, and it's only with people that lift me up. So take check of that in your life. And so in your life right now, what gives your life meaning at this stage? Is it your work? Maybe your mom, maybe your dad, maybe it's about raising kids. Maybe you don't have kids. Maybe you have nieces, nephews, maybe you have pets. I'm a big pet mom myself. I've got 2 pugs. And so that purpose of making sure my dogs are just taken care of course, my daughter's taken care of, your family, that's all part of it. All right. Okay, we're moving on to lesson number 2, moving with the times. This one I really agree with. That was one of her superpowers, was adaptability. We ran through her little short timeline. She's born in 1919, lived through the Depression, World War II, the internet, and TikTok. Really, that's a short little timeline. But it says a lot about technology, about, just how things change, especially from World War II. That's when a lot of things changed I know the food industry, right? Just commercializing of food was a big one. And of course, yeah, we've got this. I mean, remember a time when we didn't even have cell phones? I still remember that back in high school. It was when we started to get those flip phones, right? And I think as you're younger, you adapt to those things quicker and you're not as resistant. But think about maybe your parents, right? If you're listening to this, or maybe you're older and you are actually struggling with adapting. But I know there was a period in time when email first came out, the internet started coming out, and phones. You could feel there was a lot of resistance with the older crowd. I perceived that, right? For me, when the phone came out, internet, I was always on it. I mean, I remember AOL, strawberry81 at AOL.com. That was my, AOL name. And now AOL is gone. I think it was like a few months ago where they said AOL is done. It's donezo. And it was kind of a sad time because that whole noise of the internet loading up, there's just some nostalgic vibes to that, and they had that on the news not too long ago. And I was like, I remember staying up at night and I had a pen pal. I'll never forget it. I think her name was Grace, but to have that connection and, and she was the girl that played in Beaches with Bette Midler. She was the girl that played the girl that passed away. And I thought it was the coolest thing. And I remember just going at night and loading up the internet with its, I'm not doing it right, but you know what I mean? And I would stay up, chat with my friend Grace, and I'll never forget it. that connection I had, she mailed me an autograph picture. I wonder if I still have it somewhere. It's kind of sad. I don't know where it is, but I still remember that as my first experience with their internet, my AOL name, but obviously the connection to someone. And I never thought twice about technology. I just, when you're younger, at least for me, I was just, let's do it. Like, this is so cool. Like, I'm talking to somebody inside a computer, and then I got something in the mail. And so adapting to technology is something that Sister Jean embraced, right? I think embrace is a big word here, because I remember, when cell phones first came out, I know my dad didn't want to deal with it, right? Because it meant, right, when you think about it, if people who are resisting things, is it because they don't want it, or are they resisting it because they're scared and they don't want to learn something new? Learning something new could be kind of scary, especially phones when they first came out. And it's just another thing that, really you have to do, right? It's another thing you have to learn. So that's one thing we can take from her. She didn't fight time. She flowed with it. If you're not moving forward, she said, you're going to get left behind really quickly. Yeah, 100%. If you are not getting on with the internet, getting up, with technology, you're definitely going to be left behind, and it's only going to get worse and worse, right? Now you have AI coming into the picture. And I feel like that same feeling when the internet, and the phones came out. AI is blowing up crazy. And if you're not a part of it, if you're not learning like simple things, right? If you're in the corporate world, you're definitely gonna have to learn some, some at least basic skills with it. And I love it. I think it's actually taken over Google. I bet there's some stats out there where I never use Google anymore, right? ChatGPT is like our new best friend. There's pros and cons to it, but I definitely think it's going to help make us a better society, especially in the medical industry. I'm really excited about that part. And so she goes on to say that, that science really shows that cognitive flexibility, being open to new experiences builds new neural pathways, right? That's what science says. And it keeps dopamine flowing. It's just like working out, really. It's like strength training, right? You pick up some weights. If you're somebody that's never picked up a weight before, and you start with the 5-pounders, then you feel like you're strong enough. So you build onto the 8s, then the 10s, and so forth. So it's the same thing with your brain. They always say, doing crossword puzzles, learning a new language, an instrument, those types of things we've already talked about on this podcast and our other episodes, right? So it's the same muscle that you're building in your brain. Don't let that brain just sit, right? Learning these new things is great. It's like a workout for this right here. I'm pointing to my head. It's in my brain. So Sister Jean was living proof. She wasn't stuck in 1919. She was thriving. And so here's something to think about. What's your iPad moment? All right. What's one thing you can try listening to this episode? Not because you have to, but because it keeps your spirit and really keeps you younger. What's that one thing? Is there something you've been, I know. I really resist card games, and I just have never been really good at them, except for War, WAR, War. My sisters and I used to always play it because it was the easiest game to play. But when you talk about I don't even know, euchre and all these other fancy ones, I just resist it. So that's a good one, right? Learning a card game, because you really have to learn the skill. You've got to apply it, and you've got, you're going to connect with other people. So actually it's got two bonuses: learning a skill and then connecting with others. But if you are going to respond to this, it'd be great to leave a review and tell me, because that's the only pulse I really have from you guys listening to this podcast. Tell me what new skill you're going to try just listening to this podcast. I would love to hear from you.
And now for a commercial break. Sitting for hours at my corporate job really wrecked my posture and left me with constant lower back pain. I didn't understand it. I was in my mid-30s. Was this a life sentence?
I just felt so stuck. I didn't know what to do until I discovered mat-based Pilates. The movement, the core work, it really transformed my body and most importantly, relieved my lower back pain. And that's why I became a certified instructor to help others break free from that same cycle. So if you're struggling with lower back pain, I get it, but it's not a life sentence. Join me for your first free mat-based Pilates class from your very own home on Zoom. This is a workout designed to restore your balance and strength. And again, your first class is free. They're live every Monday and Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The link is in the show notes. We'll see you there. And now back to our show.
All right, lesson number 3. Eat, pray, live joyfully is the third lesson here that we're going to learn from Sister Jean. So every morning, Sister Jean woke up at 5 a.m. to pray and meditate for 30 minutes. All right, we've talked about meditating before. Praying is also one that you can combine with. All right, she carved out quiet time. And I think that is the key in a lot of our episodes too, is just having that morning reflection. Maybe you're struggling with praying, maybe even meditating, but I've mentioned this before, even have like a quiet walk in nature is a form of meditation. So just being able to be still with your thoughts, just that peaceful reflection is one that I would suggest. And she didn't deprive of herself either of food. All right. She ate what she loved in moderation. All right. Her favorite birthday meal was chicken fricassee with homemade noodles, peas, and pound cake. All right. I've never had chicken fricassee. I don't even know if I'm pronouncing that right, but it's an Italian dish. And she even joked about breakfast as she got older, saying, perhaps I don't watch my diet so much at breakfast. Sometimes she has eggs, bacon, and toast. But she says, I'm 105 at the time when she said that. What difference does it make? Right? So she believed that stress took much energy and that joy was a better investment. I'm going to say that again. She believed that stress took too much energy and that joy was a better investment. And sometimes that's easier said than done, but I believe it's a light switch, right? If you are stressing about something, I always ask myself, what is this doing for me? And so doing some deep breath work or working out, those are the two things, or doing a dance, all right, putting on some good music is a good way to shift that pattern in your brain from stressed to, releasing just some endorphins through, physical movement. So that's a way that you can shift from stress to joy, right? Because it's a lot harder to do that without having some pattern interrupters, like I just mentioned, right? If you're sitting there, you're at home, you're watching something on TV, you start thinking, your mind starts going, instead of sitting there sulking, use a pattern interrupter, okay? So dance, workout, anything physical, I would recommend. And science agrees, daily gratitude practices are linked to lower stress hormones, lower inflammation, and better health. Sister Jean went to bed every night with a smile on her face, gratitude in her heart, and love in her soul. She reminded us that longevity isn't just about what you eat or how you move. It's also about the spirit you bring to each day. I completely believe in that. Just notice your energy and what you're putting out there, because you know what? It really does matter. Everybody that you come in contact with, just the average person, the way you respond to people can really have an impact on everybody else's day. And if you're not self-aware of that, then you could really impact people. I mean, I have a lot more self-awareness about my energy, everybody else's energy, that I can kind of turn it and allow myself not to connect with that energy, if you will, and just know it's not about me. There's something about them. It's a reflection of what's going on inside them. So that's another tip for you all. If you find that you're in a situation where someone's coming down on you hard, just a little bit negative frequency that you're not really connecting to, which is good. Be more aware of that and just kind of cut the energy there and know that you're going to be in a better place just knowing that you can have that awareness. So Jean reminded us that longevity isn't just about what you eat or how you move. It's about the spirit you bring each day. So her legacy of joy comes down to 6 things. All right. Are we ready for this? Wrapping this up. Purpose, connection, connecting with the younger people. Purpose. She was involved with basketball up until the day she died. Joy. Every morning, every evening, have gratitude, have joy in your life. Make sure you're exuding that energy off to others as well. Movement, making sure you are having that movement. Adaptability, we talked about the technology. And yes, maybe a little morning bacon with your eggs. She was a nun, she was a teacher, she was a chaplain and a mentor and a friend. She was a symbol of what it looks like to live fully and not just long, right? When we talk about laughing my age off, it's about aging in a way that you are living happily and not struggling. Her passing leaves a space on the court, but her energy is still in the game. It's in every student she inspired and every life she touched and every moment she showed up with joy. So as we close our episode here, here's a little laugh my age off challenge for the week. What's one thing from Sister Jean's life that you want to carry forward? Maybe it's waking up with gratitude. Maybe it's refusing to retire from joy. Keep that joy levels up. Or 3, maybe it's time to learn a new skill. Or maybe it's just taking a selfie with someone you love. That's it for today. We'll talk to you soon. Bye. And now for a joke. Why did the bicycle fall over? It was too tired. That's it for today. We'll see you next time. Bye.